I'm Olivia Mitchell, 32 years old, and for half a decade, I diligently toiled away, building my tech company in the quiet shadows of my own making. During that time, my family, steeped in their own definitions of success, genuinely believed I was squandering every ounce of potential I possessed. Tonight, at what was meant to be a joyous engagement dinner for my brother, an unexpected revelation unfolded. His fiancée, Sophia, a woman of sharp intellect and discerning professional acumen, casually looked at me across the table, a flicker of recognition crossing her elegant features, and then whispered, almost as if to herself, "Wait, you're the founder of NeXTech." The collective expression that blossomed on my parents' faces in that precise instant, a breathtaking tableau of shock, disbelief, and dawning realization, was a sight I will forever cherish. My father, typically a paragon of unshakable composure, nearly dropped his vintage Bordeaux. My mother, usually so meticulously composed, brought a trembling hand to her pearl necklace, her eyes wide with a mixture of confusion and sudden, overwhelming awe. That single, electrifying moment, the sudden, public dismantling of their long-held narrative about my supposed failures, was worth every single excruciating holiday dinner, every subtle slight, every veiled comparison where they had relentlessly pitted me against my seemingly flawless older brother. Jason, bless his heart, remained utterly speechless, his jaw quite literally still suspended somewhere near the polished parquet floor. If you, reading this, find yourself in a place where your own audacious dreams are constantly dismissed, minimized, or outright ridiculed, I implore you to understand your moment will come. Hold on to that conviction. Growing up in Highland Park, a suburb north of Chicago that shimmered with an almost unsettling, pristine perfection, meant living under a perpetually heavy canopy of unspoken expectations. My father, Dr. Richard Mitchell, wasn't merely a surgeon, he was, in the hushed, reverent tones of the medical community, the surgeon. He was the one other highly respected doctors consulted when complex cases spiraled into the intractable, the impossible. My mother, Diana, was an equally formidable force, a corporate attorney who commanded courtrooms with an almost preternatural grace and intellect, and who, to my knowledge, had never once lost a case. And then, there was Jason, my older brother by 4 years, the quintessential firstborn. He was the golden child, the perfect son, who, without a single misstep or deviation, followed our father's illustrious path into medicine, his journey seemingly paved with gold and effortless academic triumphs. Our sprawling, elegant home was undoubtedly beautiful, a masterpiece of architectural design and meticulous landscaping. Yet, beneath its polished facade, it was fundamentally an evaluative space. The dinner table, that supposed haven for familial connection, was rarely just for the simple act of eating. No, it was a rigorous, nightly tribunal for reporting achievements. Most evenings my mother would initiate this ritual, her voice crisp and expectant. So, what did everyone accomplish today? Jason, predictably, always had an impressive roster of accomplishments. Perfect scores on advanced placement tests, gleaming trophies from science fair victories, meticulously logged volunteer hours at the most prestigious hospitals in the city. When my turn inevitably arrived, my answers, however genuinely enthusiastic, never quite measured up to their towering standards. I built a website for fun. I once announced at 15, a genuine tremor of pride in my voice, exhilarated by the fact that I had, over a single weekend, taught myself the intricate languages of HTML and CSS. My mother's response was immediate, accompanied by that particular, practiced smile that never quite managed to reach the depths of her eyes. "That's nice, honey," she'd murmured, her tone laden with a thinly veiled dismissal. "But shouldn't you be focusing on your debate team preparation? Colleges, look for sustained commitments, not hobbies." My father would nod in solemn agreement, already turning his attention to Jason. eager to inquire about the minutiae of his advanced biology project. The message, though unspoken, resonated with crushing clarity. Computers were mere toys, ephemeral distractions. True achievement, the kind that truly mattered, unfolded within the hallowed, sterile walls of operating rooms and the intense, combative arenas of courtrooms. My bedroom, consequently, became my sacred sanctuary. It was within these four walls that I could, unburdened by judgment or scrutiny, plunge headfirst into the labyrinthine world of programming languages and the vibrant, democratic chaos of online tech forums. While Jason's bedroom walls proudly displayed a carefully curated gallery of framed academic awards, mine were adorned with printouts of elegant, complex code and hastily scrawled sketches of innovative app interfaces. I would often stay awake until 2 in the morning, meticulously dissecting the intricacies of Python and JavaScript, only to drag my utterly exhausted body through chemistry class the following day. Not that my parents ever seemed to notice my profound fatigue, unless, of course, it somehow dared to impact my grades. When I was 16, a burgeoning idea took root in my mind. I developed a sophisticated program designed to streamline and organize my high school's notoriously chaotic annual fundraiser. Mrs. Winters, the event coordinator, a woman whose patience was legendary but often tested, was utterly astonished when my nascent software managed to have their planning time. "Your daughter," she effused to my parents at a school function, her voice brimming with genuine admiration, "has a truly remarkable talent." My mother, ever the diplomat, offered a polite but immediate deflection. "Oh, Olivia has many interests," she replied, her tone carefully modulated. "But we're focusing on getting her law school prerequisites in order." The crushing irony was that I had no intention, not even a fleeting thought, of applying to law school. Yet, in their minds, my entire future had already been meticulously mapped out, sealed, and delivered. The regional coding competition, during my junior year of high school, marked a significant, albeit emotionally tumultuous, turning point. After months of painstaking preparation, countless late nights fueled by caffeine and sheer determination, I successfully qualified for the finals with an inventory management system I had painstakingly built from scratch. The competition, however, fell on the very same Saturday as Jason's medical school acceptance celebration. "We're so sorry, sweetie," my mother had chirped, her voice lacking any discernible hint of genuine regret. "But your brother has worked his entire life for this. You understand, right? Maybe next time." And so, I competed alone, the sole student among a sea of competitors whose families were cheering them on, their presence a palpable source of support. Despite this emotional void, I clinched first place. The judges, seasoned professional software engineers, approached me afterwards, their faces alight with an almost palpable excitement. They told me I possessed a natural talent, a vision that transcended my young years, and an intuitive understanding of complex systems. I returned home, clutching my gleaming trophy, only to find our house overflowing with relatives, their boisterous celebrations for Jason echoing through every room. My hard-won achievement warranted a quick, almost perfunctory "That's wonderful, dear," from my father, before he promptly returned to toasting my brother's success. That night, as the cacophony of celebration faded into the background, a profound decision solidified within me. I would succeed, but I would do so entirely on my own terms, without their validation, without their conditional approval. I would build something so undeniably significant, so powerfully impactful, that they simply couldn't dismiss it, couldn't minimize it, couldn't explain it away. Something that would, at long last, force them to truly see me. Senior year brought with it the relentless deluge of college applications and an unrelenting torrent of parental pressure to apply exclusively to Ivy League institutions, boasting robust pre-law programs. My quiet rebellion took the form of applying, instead, to state universities, with exceptionally strong computer science departments. The acceptance letter from Illinois Tech arrived with its generous merit scholarship, a beacon of hope and independent choice. My parents reacted to the news as if I had just announced my intention to join a traveling circus. "You're throwing away your potential, Olivia," my father had declared, disappointment evident in every clipped syllable. Each word a heavy stone dropped into the quiet pool of my resolve. "Your test scores could get you into Yale." My mother's voice rose, edged with a disbelieving incredulity. "Computer science. That's not a field for someone of your capabilities." What they truly meant, though they couldn't quite bring themselves to articulate it, was, "That's not a field worthy of a Mitchell." Jason, home for his first year of medical school, attempted to mediate his well-meaning yet undeniably condescending tone, grating on my nerves. "Maybe it's just a phase, Mom. Let her get it out of her system before law school." I left for college that fall carrying the immense weight of my parents' expectations, a familiar burden. But accompanying it was a lightness I had never felt before, a sense of unburdened possibility. Finally, I could immerse myself fully in what I truly loved, free from the constant, piercing gaze of judgment. What my family perceived as a failure, I recognized as the crucial first step toward forging my own, authentic path. College was nothing short of liberation. At Illinois Tech, I wasn't the daughter who was squandering her potential on computer games. I was Olivia, the student professors singled out for her innovative approaches to complex programming challenges. For the very first time in my life, I found myself enveloped by a community of individuals who spoke my language, who understood the intricate logic of code, and who genuinely valued what I could do. During my sophomore year, I met Emma Rodriguez in an advanced programming class. While most students wrestled with the complexities of the final project, Emma and I breezed through it in half the assigned time. Then, just for the sheer joy of it, added extra features that pushed the boundaries of the assignment. We started grabbing coffee after class, our conversations stretching late into the night, staying until the campus cafe's chairs were stacked and the lights dimmed, talking with boundless enthusiasm about technology and its vast, untapped potential. "The healthcare system is broken," Emma declared one evening, her laptop open to a damning article detailing medical communication failures. Her mother had been misdiagnosed 3 times before finally receiving proper treatment for lupus, an experience that had left an indelible mark on Emma. "Doctors can perform miracles," she lamented, her voice tinged with frustration. "But they can't even communicate effectively with each other, let alone their patients." That conversation ignited a spark within us, a shared conviction that technology could bridge this gaping chasm. Over the next week, we feverishly sketched ideas on crumpled napkins and whiteboards, envisioning a revolutionary platform that would transform the flow of medical information between providers and patients. By semester's end, we had the skeletal framework of what would eventually blossom into NeXTech. Summer break, however, meant the inevitable return home, a place where, maddeningly, absolutely nothing had changed. At family gatherings, the first question relatives invariably directed at Jason concerned his medical residency. The first question they lobbed at me, delivered with varying degrees of feigned concern or outright pity, was always, "So, when are you switching to a real major?" I quickly learned to offer vague, non-committal answers about studying technology, answers designed to allow conversations to drift away quickly, without further probing. "Computer stuff is getting popular," my uncle would offer with a dismissive wave of his hand, as if speaking of a fleeting fad. "I'm sure you can find some entry-level job when you graduate. Maybe IT support." What they, in their comfortable ignorance, didn't know was that Emma and I were pouring every free moment, every ounce of our creative energy, into building our prototype, We worked from her parents' garage in Chicago, a space they had generously cleared for us, a silent testament to their unshakable belief. Emma's family would bring us sandwiches, their genuine questions about our progress, a soothing balm to our exhausted minds. The contrast with my own family's profound lack of interest couldn't have been starker, a constant, painful reminder of the chasm between our two worlds. By junior year, we had a fully working beta version of NeXTech. We entered entrepreneurship competitions, fueled by a potent blend of ambition and desperation, winning enough prize money to file patents and officially incorporate our business. A perceptive professor connected us with Dr. Harriet Chin, a frustrated hospital administrator who, upon seeing our early demo, became our first advisor and, eventually, our very first paying client. This, Dr. Chen had exclaimed, her eyes gleaming with a visionary zeal, could truly transform patient outcomes. How soon can we implement a pilot program? Meanwhile, at Thanksgiving dinner my senior year, my father cornered me by the dessert table, his presence a looming shadow over the carefully arranged pumpkin pie. "Deanna and I have been talking," he began, using my mother's full name in that particular way that signaled a united, parental front, an impenetrable wall of concern. "We're concerned about your job prospects, Olivia. Jason can help you get an administrative position at his hospital. Something stable, while you figure things out." I took a deep, fortifying breath, the sweet scent of holiday spices mingling with the bitter taste of their enduring skepticism. "Actually, Dad," I began, my voice carefully modulated to conceal the tremor of defiance, "I'm working on starting a business." His laugh wasn't cruel. Not exactly, but it was certainly incredulous, laced with a patronizing disbelief. "A business, Olivia, be serious. You need experience before you can even think about entrepreneurship. Get a real job first." That was the last time I attempted to share any aspect of my professional life with my family. It simply hurt too much to have something I had poured my heart and soul into, something that consumed my every waking thought, treated as a childish fantasy, a fleeting, inconsequential distraction. Emma and I graduated, exchanging our dorm rooms for a tiny, shared apartment in Chicago's bustling South Loop. We subsisted on an endless diet of ramen noodles and lukewarm coffee, coding until our eyes burned, taking on side gigs, building websites for local businesses, just to pay the incessant churn of rent. Our first official office was a cramped corner desk at a co-working space we could barely, agonizingly afford. But slowly, painstakingly, NeXTech began to gain traction. A small angel investment from one of our competition judges, a woman who had seen the spark of something truly special in our fledgling idea, allowed us to hire our first employee, a brilliant young developer named Tyler. We landed a contract with a regional medical center, then another with a network of outpatient clinics. When I called home, conversations remained resolutely superficial, a carefully constructed facade of normalcy. "Work is fine," I'd say, a stock answer delivered with practiced ease when asked. They never pressed for details, content to assume that "fine" meant I was merely getting by in some mundane, entry-level tech support role, a temporary detour before I finally came to my senses and pursued a proper career. At Christmas that year, Jason proudly announced his engagement to a pharmaceutical sales representative. My parents beamed with undisguised pride, while relatives effusively inquired about wedding plans. Later, my mother found me alone in the kitchen, refilling her wine glass, her voice low and conspiratorial. "You know, Olivia," she began, her gaze sweeping over me with a calculated assessment, "Jason's friend Mark is single. He's finishing his residency in neurology. I could arrange an introduction." The subtext, a familiar and infuriating refrain, was clear. At least I could marry success if I couldn't achieve it myself. But what my family, cocooned in their preconceived notions, couldn't see, or simply refused to acknowledge, was our user base growing exponentially. Hospitals were reporting significantly reduced errors and dramatically improved patient satisfaction. Medical journals, bastions of scientific rigor, were beginning to take serious notice of our platform's transformative impact. We need to talk about scaling, Emma announced one morning, fanning out a stack of investor meeting invitations across our desk. We simply can't keep up with demand. By the time I turned 26, NeXTech boasted a team of 30 dedicated employees and had successfully raised $5 million in venture capital. I had moved into a modest yet beautiful apartment, overlooking the glistening expanse of Lake Michigan, and could comfortably afford to pay off my student loans. A silent victory in itself. Still, when I visited my parents, I deliberately drove my old college car and wore simple, unassuming clothes, allowing them to cling to their familiar narrative about my supposed struggles. It wasn't entirely about proving them wrong anymore. It was about protecting something precious, something I had nurtured from a mere idea, from people who had never truly valued it. I wanted success on my terms, not as a grudging concession that my chosen path was valid after all. The distance between my two parallel worlds grew, stretching into a vast, almost unbridgeable chasm. In one world, I was a rising tech entrepreneur, a woman whose innovative work industry publications were beginning to notice. Her name whispered with a certain reverence in the right circles. In the other, I remained the daughter who, in their eyes, had tragically failed to live up to her inherent potential. The resulting cognitive dissonance was, at times, overwhelming, a constant internal tug of war. The email from Memorial Health System arrived on a crisp Tuesday morning in April. I read it 3 times, my heart pounding a frantic rhythm against my ribs, before summoning Emma into my office. They want to implement NeXTech across their entire network. I managed to articulate, my voice barely above a whisper, still processing the monumental scale of the news. 27 hospitals in 3 states. Emma, stunned, collapsed into the chair across from my desk. That's the largest healthcare provider in the Midwest, I finished, the words hanging in the air like a profound realization. We had been meticulously building toward this moment for years, pouring our very essence into this dream. But actually reaching it felt utterly surreal, a dream made manifest. This single contract would multiply our revenue tenfold, unequivocally establishing us as a major player in the fiercely competitive health tech landscape. Within hours, our phones began to ring off the hook, a symphony of interest from other hospital systems, all eager to discover what Memorial had seen in us. The following month brought our first acquisition offer from a much larger, established tech company, a staggering $30 million. Emma and I sat in a sleek, glass-walled conference room, listening politely as executives twice our age, their voices dripping with calculated persuasion, explained why we should take the money and simply come work for them. It's a generous offer, Emma conceded as we walked back to our humble office, the words echoing in the hushed corridor. It is, I agreed, a resolute conviction settling over me. And we're turning it down. We both knew, with an almost spiritual certainty, that NeXTech was worth far more than a mere sum of money. It was about building something that genuinely helped people, something that truly mattered, something that could profoundly impact lives. We weren't ready to relinquish control, not yet. 2 weeks later, the formidable venture capital firm Sierra Partners offered $30 million for a minority stake, an investment that valued our company at an astonishing $100 million. This time we accepted. The investment would allow us to expand rapidly, to scale our operations, without sacrificing our core vision, without compromising the integrity of what we had painstakingly built. When the press release announcing the investment went out, I made a specific request that only my first name be used. Olivia, co-founder and CEO. The articles read, usually accompanied by Emma's clear, Professional photo beside a stark silhouette where my image should have been identifiable only by my name. It wasn't about hiding. Not precisely. It was about controlling my narrative, about preserving the precious, fragile privacy around my deeply personal journey. Don't you want recognition? Emma asked me after an industry conference, where I had deliberately maintained a conspicuously low profile, melting into the background whenever a camera appeared. You've earned it. I do. I admitted, a confession that tasted bittersweet. Just not yet. And not from strangers. What I couldn't articulate, even to Emma, was the intricate, almost torturous complexity of my relationship with validation. I desperately wanted my family to truly see me, to finally acknowledge the magnitude of my accomplishments. But I wasn't sure I could stomach them taking superficial credit for my success, or, even worse, minimizing it once it became undeniably public. I needed this hard-won triumph, to be entirely mine, forged in the crucible of my own determination, before I was ready to share it with them. Besides, there was something undeniably powerful, almost deliciously subversive, about building an empire in silence, a quiet revolution hidden in plain sight. In the exclusive, tight-knit circles of the tech world, I was beginning to earn a reputation as the ghost founder, the brilliant yet shy woman behind NeXTech's revolutionary platform. The very mystery surrounding me seemed to enhance my reputation, adding an enigmatic allure. The profile in Tech World magazine came next. They initially insisted on photos of both founders, but I negotiated with a quiet stubbornness. For just Emma's clear image to be displayed prominently, and me to be photographed from behind, a silhouette looking out over our rapidly expanding office, a silent testament to our growth. The article effusively praised our innovation and leadership, carefully avoiding any intrusive delves into my personal background. It was exactly how I wanted it. At 28, I was on paper a multi-millionaire. I purchased a stylish, minimalist condo in downtown Chicago, a testament to my newfound financial freedom, but kept its decor sparse and unassuming. When relatives, on those rare occasions, inquired about my apartment, I would describe it vaguely as a small place with roommates, allowing them to comfortably maintain their deeply entrenched belief that I was still struggling, still finding my way, still not quite measuring up. My circle of trust remained deliberately tiny. Emma, of course, knew everything, the depths of my ambition, the scars of my past. My assistant, Kayla, had come to intuitively understand the complex family situation after organizing one too many declined invitations to Mitchell family events, and my therapist, Dr. Winters, a wise and empathetic presence, helped me meticulously process the conflicting emotions of achieving such profound success without external recognition from the people who mattered most. "What are you waiting for, Olivia?" Dr. Winters had asked during one session, her voice gentle yet probing. What would make it the right time to tell them? I considered the question deeply, turning it over in my mind like a smooth, weighty stone. I want to be so undeniable that they can't explain it away. I finally articulated, my voice tinged with a quiet resolve. So big that they can't possibly take credit for it, or tell me, I just got lucky. And? I paused, the next part requiring even more courage. I want to be completely at peace with never getting their approval, so if they still don't give it, I'll be okay. Dr. Winters nodded thoughtfully, a faint smile gracing her lips. And are you working toward that peace? Every day. I affirmed, and I truly was. Building NeXTech wasn't merely about creating innovative technology, it was about the profound act of creating myself, a distinct, authentic identity, separate from the constricting expectations that had rigidly defined my early life. The irony was certainly not lost on me that my brother had dutifully followed our father into medicine. Yet I, the dismissed one, was the one truly revolutionizing healthcare, transforming it with tangible impact. NeXTech was now being actively used by over 200 medical facilities nationwide. Independent studies consistently showed that our platform reduced communication errors by a staggering 43% and improved patient satisfaction scores by an impressive 38%. Every few months, usually after some family gathering, where I'd been subtly pitted against Jason's latest medical triumph, I would, in the quiet solitude of my office, pull up our company valuation and user statistics. Not from vanity, not from a desire to gloat, but as a visceral, grounding reminder that external validation, particularly from my family, was not, and never would be, the true measure of my worth. The sheer, irrefutable power of the numbers helped to anchor me when old insecurities, those insidious whispers of doubt, threatened to resurface. Then came the persistent rumors of a potential acquisition by Horizon Health Technologies, one of the largest and most influential health software companies in the entire country. Their initial outreach was tentative, a delicate dance of probing, feeling out whether we might, perhaps, entertain an offer after having notoriously turned down several others. They're talking $200 million minimum, Emma announced, her voice tinged with a delicious disbelief, after an exploratory lunch with their development director. $200 million. The figure hung in the air, weighty and undeniable. A figure that would undoubtedly make headlines, a sum so monumental it would be utterly impossible for even my achievement-oriented family to dismiss, to minimize, to explain away as a mere hobby. A part of me, the part that still craved that long-denied recognition, wondered if this might finally be the opportune moment to step out of the shadows, to shed the cloak of the ghost founder. But another, deeper part hesitated, a quiet tremor of apprehension. Was I truly ready for my meticulously separated worlds to collide with such explosive force? What would it mean to suddenly be seen, truly seen, by the very people who had spent a lifetime looking past me, dismissing my essence? I didn't have much time to wrestle with these profound questions. Life, in its own inimitable, unpredictable way, was about to force my hand, and in the most exquisitely unexpected manner possible. The call from my mother came on a serene Sunday afternoon, as I was diligently reviewing quarterly projections, my mind immersed in the intricate dance of data and future growth. "Olivia, wonderful news," she announced, her voice brimming with a carefully modulated excitement, skipping any preamble. "Jason and Sophia have set a date! Labor Day weekend. They're planning an engagement dinner next month at Bluebird. You'll need to clear your calendar." Bluebird. The name resonated with a certain cachet. It was Chicago's newest Michelin-starred restaurant, notoriously impossible to get into without high-level connections or a 3-month waiting list. Clearly, Jason, ever the strategically connected one, was pulling strings through his hospital board contacts. "That's great, Mom," I said, genuinely happy for my brother. Despite the persistent complexities of our relationship, "I'll be there." "Wonderful." My mother's voice then subtly shifted, adopting a more critical, evaluative tone. "And Olivia, it's a very upscale event. Perhaps we should go shopping for something appropriate. I noticed at Christmas your wardrobe is still very collegiate." I glanced down at my designer silk blouse and tailored trousers, an outfit that had, with casual disregard, cost more than most people's monthly rent. Not that my mother would ever know, or even conceive of it. "I'll find something suitable, Mom." "Don't worry? Well, if you're sure." The doubt, the thinly veiled skepticism in her voice, was unmistakable. "Sophia works for some big technology company, you know. Very impressive woman. Executive track. Everyone will be dressed to impress." The sheer, delicious irony of her concern almost made me laugh out loud, a bitter, suppressed chuckle. Instead, I took a deep, steadying breath. "What technology company does she work for?" I asked, trying to keep my voice casual, detached. "Oh, something about health systems. Horizon something." I don't recall exactly. Jason says they're very important in their field. My heart skipped a beat, a sudden, frantic flutter against my ribs. Horizon Health Technologies, the very company currently negotiating to acquire NeXTech for hundreds of millions of dollars. This couldn't be coincidence. Mom, do you know Sophia's last name? I asked, forcing a tone of mild curiosity. Winters. Sophia Winters. Why do you ask? Sophia Winters. The name wasn't immediately familiar from our acquisition talks, but Horizon was a massive corporation, employing thousands. Still, the sudden, unexpected connection was profoundly unsettling. After hanging up, I immediately called Emma, my mind racing. You're not going to believe this. I began, the words tumbling out as I recounted the bizarre situation. My brother is engaged to someone from Horizon. That's quite a coincidence. Emma replied, her voice carefully measured, a hint of concern in her tone. Do you think it will complicate the acquisition? I don't know. I admitted, the uncertainty a cold knot in my stomach, but I need to find out who she is before that dinner. A quick, frantic LinkedIn search revealed the shocking truth. Sophia Winters was Horizon's Director of Strategic Acquisitions. She would absolutely be involved in the NeXTech deal, likely leading it, orchestrating every intricate detail. And in a few short weeks, we would be sitting across from each other at my brother's engagement dinner, where everyone, my family included, firmly believed I was an underemployed tech support worker. The universe, it seemed, possessed a truly twisted, darkly comedic sense of humor. The pressure from my family intensified, with each passing day as the dinner approached, a mounting tide of expectations. My mother called twice more, each time reiterating her profound concern about my attire, offering unsolicited fashion advice that betrayed her deeply entrenched perceptions of my financial standing. My father left a lengthy voicemail, his tone heavy with paternal counsel, reminding me to bring something impressive about my career to discuss with Sophia's parents, who are very accomplished people. A week before the dinner, I received the most painful, most deeply insulting call yet. Olivia. My mother began, her voice adopting that clipped, professional lawyer's cadence, never a good sign. I need to discuss something delicate. Your father and I were talking with the Winters last night. They asked about you, and well, Jason mentioned you were between jobs. My stomach tightened, a hard, painful knot. I'm not between jobs, Mom. Well, that little computer help desk position wasn't exactly something to highlight, darling. Jason was just trying to smooth things over. The point is, Sophia's father knows someone at Apple who might be hiring entry-level IT staff. Isn't that wonderful? We could finally get you on a proper career track. The casual dismissal of my work, the infuriating assumption that I needed rescuing, the complete, utter lack of curiosity about what I had been diligently doing for the past 5 years, it all crashed over me in a suffocating wave of frustration and long, simmering resentment. Mum. I managed, my voice tight with carefully controlled emotion. I appreciate the thought, but I'm satisfied with my current position. Don't be proud, Olivia. This is a real opportunity. We all have to start somewhere. After hanging up, I immediately called Rachel, my childhood friend, who had recently moved back to Chicago. Unlike my family, Rachel had always, unconditionally, supported my ambitions, even when she didn't fully understand the intricate technicalities. Over the years, she had become one of the precious few who knew the unvarnished truth about NeXTech. They set you up for a pity job interview. Rachel's indignation on my behalf was exactly the emotional catharsis I desperately needed. While you're in the middle of a $200 million acquisition deal. That's rich, even for your parents. The worst part is, I confessed, a laugh bubbling up, laced with the bitter absurdity of it all. The woman my brother is marrying is literally the person negotiating to buy my company. and no one in my family has any idea. So, Rachel mused, her voice shifting to a tone of intrigued contemplation. What are you going to do at this dinner? Show up in jeans and a hoodie like they expect, or arrive in full CEO mode and watch their jaws drop? I considered the question seriously. Neither, I replied, a quiet resolve settling over me. I'm just going to be myself. No pretense, no big revelation, no games. Just dignity. Rachel raised her eyebrows, a hint of surprise in her gaze. That's very mature of you. 5 years of therapy will do that, I replied with a small, knowing smile. Besides, I'm done trying to prove anything to them. If they find out, they find out. I'm not going to hide, but I'm not going to perform either. The night before the dinner, Horizon's final acquisition offer arrived at a breathtaking $215 million, with conditions that would keep Emma and me at the company for at least 3 years post-acquisition. We were officially on the verge of becoming centimillionaires, a dizzying concept. As I selected a simple, yet exquisitely elegant black dress for the dinner, a strange, profound calm settled over me. Whatever unfolded tomorrow night, whatever revelations came to light, I knew my worth now. And no one, absolutely no one, could ever take that away from me again. Bluebird Restaurant lived up to its impeccable reputation. Crystal chandeliers cast a warm, inviting glow over plush blue velvet banquettes and tables set with gleaming, meticulously polished silver. A magnificent wall of windows overlooked the majestic Chicago River, its dark surface reflecting the glittering city lights like scattered diamonds. I arrived precisely on time, not early enough to help with the meticulous arrangements, as my mother had subtly suggested, nor late enough to make a dramatic, attention-grabbing entrance. Just punctual and dignified, like the successful businesswoman I had quietly become. The impeccably dressed hostess led me to a private dining room, where my family had already gathered, a familiar tableau of polished ease. My father stood by the bar, engaged in an animated conversation with an older gentleman I correctly assumed was Mr. Winters. My mother, ever the orchestrator, fussed with place cards at the long, elegant table, subtly rearranging them for optimal social engineering, carefully placing guests for maximum strategic advantage. Jason spotted me first. "Liv, you made it!" He crossed the room, embracing me with the easy, unburdened confidence of someone who has never once questioned his privileged place in the world. "Come meet Sophia." She stood by the window, tall and elegant in a sophisticated burgundy dress, her dark hair swept into a graceful updo. I recognized her immediately from Horizon's executive page, though I had never actually seen her in person during our negotiations, which had, until this final, critical stage, been handled through a meticulous chain of intermediaries. "Sophia, this is my sister, Olivia," Jason said, his voice tinged with that slightly apologetic, almost dismissive tone he invariably used when introducing me to his accomplished friends, a silent acknowledgement of my supposed lesser status. "It's so nice to finally meet you," Sophia said warmly, extending a perfectly manicured hand, her grip firm and confident. "Jason talks about you all the time." I wondered, with a flicker of internal amusement, what exactly he said, but merely smiled and shook her hand. "Congratulations on your engagement. I'm happy for you both." My mother appeared at my elbow, her presence an immediate, palpable judgment. "Olivia, I see you found something to wear. That's nice." The pause, loaded with unspoken criticism, spoke volumes. "We've put you next to Cousin Margaret. You always got along with her." Translation: they had seated me as far as humanly possible from the important guests, ensuring I wouldn't inadvertently embarrass them. Dinner began with the clinking of champagne flutes and a series of carefully orchestrated toasts. My father spoke first, raising his glass to Jason and Sophia. "To my son," he began, his voice thick with a palpable, almost overwhelming emotion, "who has made us proud every single day of his life. and to Sophia, a brilliant, accomplished woman worthy of him. We couldn't ask for a better addition to our family. My mother's toast followed, a meticulously crafted speech that painstakingly highlighted Jason's long list of achievements, from his very first science fair victory to his recent, impressive promotion to chief resident. She concluded with, "And now he's found a partner equally dedicated to his great success." To Jason and Sophia. As glasses clinked around the table, I subtly noticed Sophia looking at me, a slight furrow in her brow, as if attempting to place me, to fit me into some context beyond Jason's underachieving sister. The first course arrived, a delicate scallop dish, and conversation flowed around me in a warm, convivial current. Cousin Margaret, ever tactful, inquired about my job situation with the delicate, almost morbid approach of someone asking about a terminal illness. "I'm in health technology," I said simply, dramatically understating my role. "Database management." Not untrue, just a fractional truth. "Oh, that's nice," she replied, her voice mirroring the same inflection my mother had used earlier. "Is there much room for advancement in that field?" Before I could formulate a polite, evasive answer, my uncle, emboldened by the champagne, leaned across the table, his voice boisterous. "Olivia, Jason tells us you might have a lead on a position at Apple. That would be quite a step up for you." I took a slow, deliberate sip of water, allowing the cool liquid to calm the sudden tremor in my hands. "I'm actually quite satisfied with my current work," I stated, my voice firm. My father, overhearing, joined the chorus, his tone laced with a paternalistic concern. "Olivia, there's no shame in accepting help to get your foot in the door somewhere respectable. We all want to see you succeed." From across the elegant table, I noticed Sophia staring at me, more intently now, her gaze piercing, analytical. Recognition, a slow, dawning light, began to spread in her eyes. "Olivia," she said, her voice cutting through a sudden lull in conversation, crisp and clear against the ambient hum of the restaurant. "Forgive me, but is your last name Mitchell?" The entire table fell abruptly silent, a sudden, expectant hush. Jason looked utterly confused. "Of course it is, Sophia. She's my sister." Sophia's eyes widened, a dawning realization transforming her sophisticated features. "You're Olivia Mitchell, from NeXTech." And there it was. The moment I had both dreaded and secretly anticipated for years, the culmination of a decade of quiet defiance. "Yes," I said simply, the single word hanging in the suddenly heavy air. Sophia slowly, deliberately, sat down her fork, its small clink against the fine china echoing in the silence. "Wait," she whispered, her voice tinged with incredulity. "You're the founder?" "The CEO, Olivia Mitchell. The one we're—" She stopped herself abruptly, suddenly acutely aware of the very public setting, her professional decorum reasserting itself. Jason laughed nervously, a strained, forced sound. "Sophia, I think you're confusing Olivia with someone else. My sister works in tech support or something." "No," Sophia said slowly, her gaze locking onto mine, unwavering, intense. "Your sister is the founder and CEO of NeXTech, the healthcare communication platform that's revolutionizing patient care across the country. The company my firm is currently in final negotiations to acquire for over $200 million. The silence that followed was absolute, suffocating in its intensity. My father froze, his wine glass suspended halfway to his lips, a tableau of disbelief. My mother's hand fluttered to her pearl necklace, her eyes wide, unblinking. Jason's mouth literally hung open, a comical picture of stunned incomprehension. "Is this true?" My father finally managed, his voice faint, barely a whisper. I met his gaze steadily, unflinchingly. "Yes. Emma Rodriguez and I founded NeXTech 6 years ago. We currently employ over 70 people and serve more than 300 healthcare facilities nationwide." "But why wouldn't you tell us?" My mother looked genuinely bewildered, a rare crack in her carefully constructed facade. Before I could answer, Sophia, her initial shock giving way to genuine, unbridled enthusiasm, continued, her professional demeanor temporarily forgotten. Your platform reduced medication errors at Boston General by 62% in the first year. The interface design revolutionized how doctors access patient information. We've been trying to develop something similar for years, but your solution is light years ahead. It's why we're willing to pay such a premium to acquire you. My family stared at me, their faces etched with a profound sense of estrangement, as if seeing a complete stranger seated at their table. In many ways, they were. $200 million. My father's voice was barely audible, a ghost of its usual authoritative tone. Sophia nodded. The acquisition is set to close next week, pending final approval. She turned to me, a slightly embarrassed smile gracing her lips. I had no idea you were Jason's sister. Your company profile just shows Olivia with no photo, and our teams have been handling the negotiations. I prefer to maintain a low profile, I said, the understatement of the century, a wry smile playing on my lips. My mother, still reeling, could only meet my gaze, her carefully constructed world having just been spectacularly shattered. The rest of the dinner passed in a surreal blur of shocked questions and awkward revelations. Relatives who had, an hour before, subtly pitted me against Jason, now asked for investment advice, their eyes alight with a newfound, opportunistic respect. My mother, trying desperately to reclaim some semblance of understanding, mentioned 3 times that she had always known I had a special talent with computers, a blatant revision of history. My father, not to be outdone, claimed he had told colleagues all about his daughter, the tech mogul, about to sell her company for a sum that dwarfed his entire expected lifetime earnings as a physician. Through it all, I maintained my composure, answering questions politely, but without the desperate, aching desire for approval that had defined so much of my earlier life. The validation I had once so deeply craved now felt hollow, almost anticlimactic, in the face of their sudden, transparently opportunistic pride. As the evening wound down, Sophia pulled me aside, her expression one of genuine concern. I'm so sorry if I created an awkward situation, Olivia. I was just so surprised. I smiled genuinely, a true, unforced smile. Don't apologize, Sophia. It's been a long time coming. For what it's worth, she added, her voice sincere. Your reputation in the industry is extraordinary. People call you the ghost genius. Now I understand why you kept such a low profile. As we said our goodbyes, my mother clutched my arm, her grip surprisingly tight. We need to talk soon, Olivia. Properly talk. About everything? I nodded, knowing the conversation was inevitable, but no longer fearing it. We will. Walking to my car, I felt lighter, somehow, than I had in years. The secret I had carried, nurtured, and protected for so long was finally, gloriously, out in the open. Whatever came next, whatever difficult conversations lay ahead, I would face them on my own terms, secure in the unshakable knowledge of what I had built, confident in the woman I had become. The first text arrived before I even got home from the dinner. My mother. We need to talk. Brunch tomorrow. The Drake Hotel at 11. By morning, my phone was flooded. Relatives, their memories suddenly conveniently recalibrated, remembered they had, always supported, my computer interests. Cousins who hadn't spoken to me in years suddenly inquired about investment opportunities. Jason sent 3 separate messages, each more confused than the last, culminating in a simple, almost plaintive, "Why didn't you tell me?" I replied only to my parents, agreeing to brunch. Some conversations I knew needed to happen in person. The Drake Hotel's dining room was elegant and discreet, its hushed ambience perfect for the difficult conversation ahead. My parents were already seated when I arrived, both dressed impeccably, as if for an important business meeting rather than a family brunch. "Olivia!" My father stood, awkwardly oscillating between his usual perfunctory greeting and something more befitting a daughter he had just discovered was wildly successful. He settled on an uncomfortable, hesitant hug. "You look well." My mother was less restrained. "Darling, we have so much to discuss!" "I've been reading all about NeXTech this morning. The innovation awards, the funding rounds, the user growth statistics. Why would you keep all this from us? We're your family." I took a deep breath, steeling myself. "I think you know why." "I certainly don't," my father replied, his tone immediately defensive. "We've always supported your pursuits." The waiter arrived with coffee, giving me a much-needed moment to compose my thoughts. Once he left, I looked directly at my parents, my gaze unwavering. "You never took my interest in technology seriously. Every time I tried to share my work with you, it was dismissed as a hobby, something to get out of my system, before finding a real career. After a while, it was easier to stop trying." "That's not fair," my mother protested, a hint of indignation in her voice. "We just wanted what was best for you. The technology field seemed so uncertain." "What you wanted," I corrected gently, "was for me to follow a path you understood and approved of. When I chose differently, you treated it as a failure." My father leaned forward, attempting to reassert control. "We always knew you had potential, Olivia. We were just pushing you to excel." "No," I said firmly. "You were pushing me to conform. There's a difference." "Well, clearly it worked out," he countered, a triumphant glint in his eye. "Look at what you've accomplished. Perhaps our pushing helped motivate you." It was the exact response I had feared and expected. Taking credit for a success they had played no role in, rewriting history to cast themselves as supportive mentors rather than dismissive critics. "Dade," I said, my voice quiet but cutting, "do you remember telling me to get a real job at Thanksgiving 5 years ago? Or suggesting I take an administrative position at Jason's hospital because my own work wasn't viable?" I turned to my mother. "Mom, do you remember arranging a pity job interview for me just last week?" My mother had the grace to look genuinely embarrassed, a rare moment of vulnerability. "We were concerned about you. You never shared any details about your work. How were we supposed to know?" "You could have asked," I countered, my voice laced with the quiet pain of a lifetime of being unseen. "Rarely asked, with genuine interest. Not just waiting for an answer that confirmed what you already believed about me." The conversation continued through eggs, Benedict, and mimosas, painful but profoundly necessary. My mother vacillated between defensiveness and genuine, albeit clumsy, attempts at reconciliation. My father, true to form, tried to maintain his authority by suggesting he had always seen my hidden potential, a retroactive claim of prescience. "Your brother always spoke highly of your intelligence," my mother offered, as if Jason's approval could retroactively legitimize me in their eyes. "I know you both love me," I said finally, the words a raw, honest truth, "but love without respect or understanding isn't enough. I needed you to see me for who I actually was, not who you wanted me to be." We parted with tentative plans to have dinner the following week. A small, fragile first step toward whatever our complex relationship might eventually become. It wasn't the cathartic, cinematic resolution of a movie scene, but real healing rarely is. It's a slow, arduous process. Jason appeared at my apartment that evening, unannounced, a surprising display of initiative. "I brought wine," he said awkwardly, holding up an expensive bottle of Cabernet. "Figured we might need it." I let him in, a flicker of surprise mixed with a nascent curiosity. My sleek penthouse, with its floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the glittering city, and its minimalist design, was a far cry from the struggling existence he had so comfortably imagined for me. "Nice place?" he said, looking around, a genuine astonishment in his voice. "Really nice. Thanks. We settled into my living room, glasses of wine in hand, the Chicago skyline glittering beyond the glass, a silent witness to our conversation. So, he began, taking a deep breath. I've been an ass. The blunt admission startled a laugh out of me, a genuine, unforced sound. Not entirely, I replied. No. I have, he insisted, meeting my gaze. I bought into this whole narrative about you struggling, or being lost, or whatever. I never really asked you about your work. Like, actually asked. No, you didn't. He swirled his wine thoughtfully. I think I liked being the successful one. The one who made Mom and Dad proud. It was comfortable. His honesty disarmed me completely. I had expected excuses, or the same revisionist history our parents had attempted. For what it's worth, he continued, his voice softening. I'm sorry. And I'm really, truly impressed by what you've built. Sophia hasn't stopped talking about your platform. Apparently, you're some kind of genius. I just built something I believed in. I said, something that actually helps people. Like what I try to do as a doctor. He nodded, a flicker of understanding in his eyes. Just on a much larger scale, apparently. We talked for hours, really talked. Perhaps for the very first time as adults. He asked genuine, insightful questions about NeXTech, about the challenges of building a company from nothing, about the intricacies of the tech industry. I, in turn, asked about his medical work, and found myself, to my surprise, genuinely interested in his answers, now that they weren't presented as irrefutable evidence of his superiority. As he was leaving, he paused at the door. Sophia really likes you, you know. She was mortified about outing you at dinner, but she's hoping you two might become friends, especially if you'll be working together after the acquisition. I'd like that, I said, surprised to find I meant it, a warm feeling spreading through me. Over the next few weeks, as the acquisition moved inexorably toward completion, my family relationships entered unfamiliar territory, a landscape of tentative exploration and occasional missteps. My parents oscillated between genuine, if clumsy, attempts to understand my work and reflexive behaviors, born from decades of seeing me through a particular, narrow lens. There were uncomfortable lunches where my father, unable to shed his long-held authoritative demeanor, tried to offer me unsolicited business advice, and awkward phone calls where my mother, despite my busy CEO schedule, still asked if I was eating properly. But there were also small, yet profoundly meaningful, moments of genuine connection. My father, a man of numbers and precision, asked to see the NeXTech platform and listened attentively as I explained its features, a rare display of quiet respect. My mother, in a moment of refreshing honesty, admitted that she had never truly understood technology, but was unequivocally proud of what I had created. Small steps, yes, but undeniably meaningful ones. The most unexpected, and arguably most impactful, development was Sophia's pivotal role in bridging the gaping chasm between my two worlds. As both my future sister-in-law and my professional colleague, she possessed a unique, invaluable perspective on the intricate dynamics of the Mitchell family. Your parents are trying, Olivia, she told me over coffee one afternoon, her voice gentle yet firm. They just don't have the vocabulary for this version of success. They're learning a new language. A language you seem to speak fluently. I observed a hint of admiration in my voice. She smiled. I grew up with parents who measured worth exclusively by academic degrees and professional titles. It took me years to realize there are many paths to a meaningful life. Maybe I can help translate a bit. And she did. Gently, patiently, she educated my family about the tech industry, contextualizing my achievements in terms they could understand, and occasionally, with a subtle grace, giving them a much-needed reality check when they inevitably slipped into old, ingrained patterns. Her efforts weren't always immediately successful, but they undeniably helped ease the often turbulent transition to our new reality. The acquisition closed on schedule, transforming Emma and me into centimillionaires overnight, a dizzying, life-altering shift. The press release, a triumphant culmination, mentioned both our full names and included professional photos. My first public acknowledgement as NeXTech's co-founder. The ghost genius was finally, deliberately, stepping into the light. 6 months after my brother's engagement dinner, life had settled into a new, comfortable rhythm. The NeXTech acquisition had closed successfully, and I now led the innovation division at Horizon Health Technologies, a role that perfectly blended my technical expertise with my strategic vision. Our platform was being implemented in hospitals across 3 continents, with Emma, my brilliant partner, overseeing the complexities of international expansion. My office overlooked the majestic Chicago River, its waters reflecting the changing seasons, a constant, beautiful tableau. Today, spring sunshine glinted off its surface. As I finished a conference call with our development team in Singapore, a text from Sophia interrupted my workflow. Reminder, dinner at your place tonight. I'm bringing that wine you liked. Jason says he's making dessert, so expect emergency cupcakes from the bakery when he inevitably burns something. I smiled, a genuine, warm smile. These casual family dinners had become a monthly tradition, something I would have found utterly unimaginable a mere year ago. Sometimes my parents joined. Sometimes it was just the 3 of us. But the easy camaraderie that had developed between Sophia, Jason, and me was something I treasured, a true gift. Working closely with Sophia had accelerated our friendship, solidifying it into a deep, mutual respect. Her straightforward, no-nonsense approach to business perfectly matched my own, and her astute insights into my family dynamics proved invaluable, illuminating their motivations with a clarity I had often lacked. She understood my parents in ways I sometimes couldn't, identifying the deep-seated insecurities that lay beneath their seemingly controlling behaviors. Your dad didn't dismiss your tech career because he thought you'd fail, Olivia, she observed once, her voice insightful. He dismissed it because he didn't understand it. And Richard Mitchell hates not understanding things. My relationship with Jason had transformed most dramatically of all, without the oppressive hierarchy of successful doctor and struggling sister. We discovered common ground, a shared purpose. Both of us were driven, detail-oriented perfectionists who genuinely wanted to improve healthcare, each in our own unique way. Now, we traded ideas instead of judgments, collaborating rather than competing. My parents were trying. That was the most accurate, most generous description. We had established new, healthier boundaries. With my mother no longer offering unsolicited advice about my appearance, and my father making visible efforts to ask questions about my work without immediately suggesting improvements or offering patronizing counsel. Our weekly Sunday calls were no longer agonizing exercises in evasion, but actual conversations, sometimes not easy ones, but real nonetheless. My mother had even visited NeXTech's offices, her initial awkwardness giving way to genuine pride as employees greeted me with obvious respect and admiration, a sight that visibly softened her. The healing wasn't just external, it was deeply internal. The acquisition had given me the financial freedom and mental space to focus on my own well-being in ways I had neglected during the grueling startup grind. Regular therapy sessions with Dr. Winters helped me meticulously process the complicated emotions surrounding my family's sudden, belated recognition. You spent years protecting yourself from their judgment, she noted during one session. No, that protection isn't necessary in the same way, but the habits remain. It's okay to let some of those walls down gradually. I had taken her advice, not just with family, but in actively building a broader support network. Rachel remained my oldest and most trusted friend, a constant anchor. But I had also connected with other women entrepreneurs through mentoring programs and industry events. The profound isolation that had characterized my early career had gradually given way to a chosen family of people who understood both my work and my unique journey. One particular source of joy was mentoring young women in technology, paying forward the encouragement I had so rarely received. Once a month, I hosted workshops for high school girls interested in STEM fields, sharing not just technical knowledge, but the crucial emotional resilience needed to pursue unconventional paths, to forge their own way. My parents think computer science is just a hobby, one 15-year-old told me, her voice echoing my own painful experience. They want me to become a lawyer like my mom. What do you want? I asked, my voice gentle. To build things that matter. She replied without hesitation, her eyes shining with youthful determination. Then build them. I said, sharing resources and encouragement, a roadmap drawn from my own hard-won experience. Find the people who believe in your vision, even if they're not your family. And keep the door open for your parents to understand later. That evening, as I prepared for dinner with Jason and Sophia, I reflected on how far I had come. The external validation I had once craved, pursued with such a desperate hunger, had finally arrived in abundance: industry recognition, staggering financial success, even, surprisingly, family acknowledgement. But I had discovered something infinitely more valuable along the way: the profound, liberating ability to validate myself, to know my own worth intrinsically. Jason arrived first, bearing both a homemade chocolate cake that looked surprisingly edible and the emergency bakery cupcakes Sophia had predicted. I hedged my bets, he admitted with a sheepish laugh. But I'm getting better. Only set off the smoke alarm once this time. Sophia arrived moments later with the wine and exciting news about their wedding plans. As we gathered around my dining table, the conversation flowed easily, a natural, unforced current, from work to wedding to lighthearted family gossip. Mom's actually reading books about technology startups, Jason reported, a hint of amused disbelief in his voice. I found tech founders under 30 on her nightstand last week. Better late than never, I said, without a trace of bitterness, only a quiet acceptance. Later, as we moved to the living room with coffee and dessert, Sophia asked a question that caught me off guard. A moment of unexpected introspection. Do you ever wish things had been different? That your family had recognized your potential from the beginning? I considered her question carefully before answering, my gaze sweeping over the glittering city lights outside my window. Of course, sometimes. It would have been easier, less painful. But I'm not sure I would have built the same resilience, or the same clarity of purpose. I learned to believe in myself when no one else did. That's a powerful foundation. Plus, Jason added with newfound self-awareness and a wry grin. If Mom and Dad had been fawning over your tech career, I might have grown up even more insufferable than I already was. We laughed, the sound floating out over the city lights, light and free. The journey wasn't over, not truly. Family relationships are never perfectly fixed, but rather continuously evolving, dynamic entities. There would undoubtedly be more difficult conversations, more moments when old patterns, those deeply ingrained behaviors, threatened to reassert themselves. But something fundamental had shifted. I no longer needed my family to see my worth in order to know it myself. That profound freedom allowed me to accept their growing appreciation without desperation, to forgive past dismissals without forgetting the invaluable lessons they had taught me, and to build relationships based on who we were all becoming, rather than who we had rigidly been. Success, I had learned, isn't ultimately measured by external recognition, but by genuine, tangible impact. By that standard, NeXTech had succeeded beyond my wildest dreams, improving patient outcomes and healthcare communication for thousands, truly making a difference. And I had succeeded in creating a life authentic, to my values and vision, regardless of who approved, regardless of external validation. As for family, the one we're born into, and the one we choose, perhaps the greatest lesson was that relationships can indeed transform beautifully and profoundly when we bring our whole, authentic selves to them. Not everyone will celebrate your chosen path from the outset, but those truly worth keeping in your life will eventually learn to see you clearly, to value the unique person you truly are. The next day, as I looked out over the bustling city from my office window, I felt a deep, abiding gratitude for the journey, complicated and challenging as it had often been. The path forward wasn't perfectly clear. No path ever is. But I was walking it on my own terms, creating success by my own definition. And that, more than any acquisition deal or any fleeting family validation, was the true, undeniable achievement. If my story resonated with you today, I'd love to hear about moments when you had to believe in yourself, when others didn't. Drop a comment below, sharing your experience. And if you know someone who desperately needs to hear this message of self-belief, please share this video with them. Don't forget to subscribe for more stories about finding your own path, even when it's not the one others expect. Thank you for listening to my journey. Remember, true success isn't about proving others wrong, but about proving yourself right.